come into the agricultural space and just get a feel of it and in some way just get interested in it. So this vacation period was the first year we did it. We pulled in some interns in ICT. I should have also put in engineering as well. And so the ICT interns, they would be working with us in helping us just to develop our systems a little bit better, our software solutions, giving us new software solutions to help do some task. The engineer students, they will be building equipment for us, designing equipment, and then they must produce a prototype at the end of their internship and make sure it works. Additionally, we look at our social media platforms. Of course, this is our way for communicating, that we communicate with the public. So we have to make sure that these things are up to par and up to the standard of the current day. So 5 years ago, maybe not 5 years ago, but a few years ago, not a lot of people were on Facebook, but now a lot of people are on Facebook. And in the past few years, Facebook itself has changed, and you need to create a followership. And even on your Instagram and other social media sites, you need to create a followership. So we are right now revamping our social media platforms so that we can engage with our population, our stakeholders and so forth in the way that they are currently engaging in social media. We also are looking at some post-disaster assessment initiatives, well, in particular, a feasibility study on the impact of the storms that were last year on the agricultural sector for the region. The results of this feasibility will be presented at the Caribbean Week of Agriculture, so I can't actually give much details about that one. We are also getting into big data analytics, and the big data analytics is just to help us to, one of the things that someone would have appointed someone, I don't think the person is here right now, but they were talking about there being a lack of data in the Caribbean, and we recognize that one of the reasons for this is because not everybody, there isn't one central location that you can find a lot of data on a commodity or on some issue like a pest management strategy or whatnot. We recognize that there isn't a lot of access to that data. So what we're trying to do right now, we're focusing on the coconut industry, is to pull together all of the data for the industry and then analyze it and come up with some forecasts and projections for where the industry is going. And that's just for right now. We also are getting into game development. These games are currently, the point of them is to teach young people some of the pest management strategies in the coconut industry. So it's not a very boring game. It is akin to like a Call of Duty game or just a very interesting game where you are in a coconut field and you are trying to kill the pests of the industry by using the actual things that you would use to kill these pests. Also, we are I put virtual and augmented reality, but it's not quite virtual reality just yet. It's just augmented reality. And again, this is for the coconut industry. I will be presenting on this later on in the week on Thursday, I believe it is. We are looking at using this to help us to help with land use for the industry. So if you have a plot of land and you need to figure out what are the best places to plant a coconut tree, then you just do an analysis of the field and then you stick in where you think the algorithm will stick in where the best place for planting the coconut trees would be. And finally, we are conducting a regional hackathon later on in this year. And this hackathon is going to help us to pull together more software solutions. So the ICT department at Cardi is quite small, and so we don't have a lot of hands. So one of the ways that we felt would help us to get more of the things that we need to get done was conducting a hackathon to bring in all of the stuff that we need to get done. So if you recognize, most of our current thrust will be focused on the coconuts. I mean, post-disaster assessments and the interns and social media are separate. But so this will definitely form the expansion of our thrust in ICTs in the coming years for the strategic period. We will look at precision agriculture and climate smart agriculture In particular, we will look at, on the precision agriculture, we're trying to get more into geomapping and using satellite and using sensors, to collect data. Right now, we do use some of these equipment in precision agriculture, but we do not use them to their full extent. So right now, we're just going to use the data that we have collected to try to direct our strategies in different commodities, designing resilient commodities and such. Under disaster resilience, we are looking at creating models. So we are currently in post-disaster assessment of the agricultural sector, but we're looking into building models for early warning systems for the agricultural sector. For the data analytics, we are aiming to not just focus on the coconut industry, but also expand it to the other industries where, say someone says, okay, the strategy that I use for pest management right now on breadfruit is X, and but then we don't have solid fact that that is actually the best method for it. So we're just trying to pull together all the data, all the historical data in the sector, and make some sense out of them, and rather give projections as well for them. We are also getting more heavily involved in GIS and GNSS. In fact, these two, GIS, is Geographic Information Systems, and GNSS is Global Navigation Satellite Systems. GNSS is pretty much just using satellite imagery to take images and make use of them for the sector. And so, coming out of the feasibility study that we conducted for post-disaster assessment, we recognize that there's a lot more that we can do for the industry using this technology. We see that not a lot of the data on our maps are well labeled, so we are trying to get them labeled and create more data on our maps. And in the transfer technology, we are looking at modernizing the extension services, which Dr. Listra also would have spoken about as well. Okay, and so pretty much that's CARDI, and that's the way we are dealing with ICT. So we are recognizing a need for it in a particular sphere of our operations. And once we recognize the need for it, we check, do our research, and make sure that what we are going to be using is actually applicable to the sector and to our exact needs for the region, and then deploying it. Okay, thank you.
Let me thank you so much, Ria. Computer? I think it's right here. For this enlightening presentation. And as you would have identified, some of the key initiatives which are undertaken by CARDI, having identified various problems in terms of, for example, appropriate statistics, and how that can lend itself to understanding the sector, analyzing the sector, and this is one of the areas of emphasis. But I also noticed in one of the slides, and especially for the young people here, you would have noticed a drone. Now, I am sure that that would have drawn you to the interest as far as ICT is concerned and its use in the agricultural sector. This is one particular area in which we can infuse a new entrepreneurial class in addressing the issues related to agriculture, whether it be in identifying some of the diseases, areas in which you could map out areas, etc., and controlling such diseases, etc. So there are areas of interest, but not just in terms of this technology, but also in terms of actual production, whether it be water resource management and a whole range of other issues. So I want to thank you so much for this. And what we would do for this segment is we would just take the presentations, and thereafter we will go into an open discussion on the various issues raised. So let me use the opportunity to invite Dr. Richard Blair of ICA, and he would expound a little. Thank you.
Thank you. Briefly, what ICA does in the context of our discussion today. Experiences in the use of knowledge management, where it's been, most of the ICT work has been done in ICA. We look at some experiences in countries, and then looking forward and some of the things that we could do going forward. Who are we? We are a specialized agency of the Inter-American system, and our efforts support member states in achieving agricultural development and rural well-being. What we do, we work in a variety of areas, starting from institutional strengthening all the way to corporate management, but I've taken liberty in putting in bold some of the areas that speak more directly to our discussion today. So the area of capacity building and development of human talent would be central in this discussion as well. Management and use of knowledge, central to our discussion as well today. So these are some of the areas. Consensus building and coordination of stakeholders, among others. So, how we did it, it should read how we did it in the past, mainly through flagship projects. ICA operates with a medium-term plan. The last one, or the one that we're in right now, is 2014 to 2018. So, in the last medium-term plan, they had 4 flagship projects that treated with agriculture change, family agriculture, resilience, and risk issues and inclusion in agriculture. And so, for our next medium-term plan, we might have some changes, but they do not really go away from the central issues captured here. So the next medium-term plan certainly will build on these issues here. We also operate through externally funded projects. For instance, the 10 TDF was one of the major ones recently, which was executed by ICA in collaboration with CARD and the CARICOM Secretariat, right? Then there's the rapid response actions, short-term projects, treating with issues of disasters particularly. And the last issues, the hurricanes experienced recently, some of our resources would have been channeled in rapid response actions. And there are, of course, pre-investment initiatives. So where do we work? Well, we work in 34 member states in the Americas. That is a very important point. It means that we have boots on the ground, and it's very important for strategies. We're talking about regional and national strategies for ICTs. That is a central issue if you want to ground something in the country, to have the kind of capacity and resources in the country. And ICA has offices in 34 member states, including the 15 CARICOM member states as well. Let us look at knowledge management for agriculture, experiences in knowledge management for agriculture. ICA has a close relationship with InfoAgro, which is an information and knowledge management platform. And importantly, its purpose is to disseminate and facilitate access to agriculture information. The platform is managed by the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture and houses 6 subsystems, treating with agribusiness, food security, agriculture chains, and the technological aspect in infotech, among others. So that is one area that ICA is involved in managing knowledge using ICTs. There is also CIGET, or CIGET, depending on where you're from, which is an area-based development and social inclusion, provides access to systemized information on area-based development and social inclusion, such as learning materials and other capacity building material and resources. Again, ICA supports this platform through provision of subject material. And only recently, under its Inclusion and Family Agriculture project, it submitted 7 modules treating with area-based agriculture and inclusion. It has a relationship as well with CDAC. And I should have mentioned that CIGET, its virtual library, is connected with CDAC, which is supported, as you can see here, by ICA. Right? CDAC is technically led by the Orton Memorial Library, which is housed at ICA in Costa Rica. And important as well, there's over 250 documents on agriculture, the whole chain that can be accessed freely on CDAC. Agri-profiles. All of ICA's personnel, professional personnel that is, are listed in agri-profiles. So if you were to get into the website and Google my name, for instance, you'll see something on Richard Blair and his specialization in agriculture, or Ms. Thomas, Carol Thomas, who's an expert in agriculture, health, and food safety, or what have you, right? This is just for ICA, but it captures a whole host of persons and resource personnel in agriculture across the world, right? So if you're interested in a specific area, you put that information in, and you were able to access a plethora of sources that you could follow up to in pursuing your objective. Then there's Access Agriculture, which is an international NGO which showcases agriculture training videos. And ICA is a major sponsor of that NGO as well. Continuing the area of e-learning, there is IMARC, whose main objective is to develop the capacities of individuals and support institutions worldwide in effective knowledge and information management. And ICA is a member of the steering group that coordinates IMARC, right? So, on the side of knowledge management, ICA has been very involved in coordinating information in agriculture using ICTs, platforms, libraries, virtual libraries, and that sort of thing. Just to give you a little flavor as to what is happening in countries, we look at some of the experiences in 3 countries, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis. I know there are persons here from St. Kitts and Nevis, and I was told, as a matter of fact, that they will present issues speaking to that specific program. In the case of Antigua and Barbuda, following Hurricane Irma, ICA was responsible for setting up or creating a WhatsApp group, which, remember someone said, sometimes we get hooked to the technology, but the truth is, it's really its purpose, its use, its usefulness. And I think this is one of the things that came out in this simple initiative. There was a WhatsApp group to share information among stakeholders, and it was found to be very effective, useful, and timely in that regard. In the case of St. Kitts and Nevis, which I alluded to earlier, through ICAs, we spoke about how ICA operates. There's the Rapid Response Action. That was one of the ways our streams ICA would operate through. And they had the St. Kitts and Nevis Agri-Commerce Agri-Producers Online Marketplace, which was supported by ICA, right? And the idea behind that was to link producers to market, right? That is the purpose of all these technologies, to do something for the stakeholders, the operators. So this was one initiative that ICA was involved, and it will be expanded on, I understand, by personnel from the ministry in St. Kitts and Nevis. Suriname, there was the Web 2 Tools training program, where 22 women producers improved their knowledge, capacity, and skills in the use of Web 2 tools for the online promotion and marketing of their products and services and networking among various clusters. Again, the central thing here was linking producers to markets. There's always a concern about having produce, no markets are not accessible, markets not being accessible. This we find to be a very useful tool in linking producers to the market. All right? 22 women were trained. I think that was a significant amount of persons, recognizing that these women are from clusters, right? So if you multiply that, you can see the kind of ripple effect that could have in marketing products. I selected to present the one in St. Lucia last because of this issue of aging farmer population, and the need to involve youth, and the fact that youth easier connect with technology, right? Here we have the Caribbean Virtual Business Incubator and Resource Hub that was supported by ICA through its association with CAFI, which is the Caribbean Agriculture Forum for Youth, and it was supported as well in a big way by CTA. So what this thing is about is a virtual business incubator that would address information knowledge challenges that entrepreneurs face in developing their entrepreneurial capacities. And it really is a dedicated web platform to support youth in agriculture networking, entrepreneurial development, and knowledge leveraging for enterprise development. To date, 13 guides for Caribbean states, countries were prepared and posted on this hub, in this hub. Right? This is a screenshot of this hub we're talking about. Very attractive and very interactive, as a matter of fact. I went through it myself. You should take the opportunity and go through it. And there's a plethora of information and data and useful resources that any young agro entrepreneur would want to connect with. The next experience issue I'd want to touch briefly on is a project that was supported by ICA through its Secretariat for Planning and Evaluation, right? The name of the project was Experiences in the Use of Text Messaging Services and Mobile Telecommunications in Agriculture Markets of Costa Rica, Ecuador, Trinidad and Tobago, and Uruguay. Briefly, the MIOA, which is the Market Information Organization, is a hemispheric network dedicated to compile, process, and share agriculture information. ICA operates its technical secretariat, and some of the countries that belong to the MIOA have developed technological tools, and some have gone along the way further than others. And those identified were Costa Rica, Ecuador, Trinidad, and Tobago. and Uruguay. And so the idea was to find out what were some of the things that they were doing right, and what were some of the challenges they were experiencing, so that they could replicate this thing possibly in other countries and do it better, so to speak. So with support from ICA, among others, an evaluation was conducted in the mobile messaging service offered in the identified countries. So CEPI at ICA supported MIOA in systematizing the results. The objectives of the exercise were to learn from the experiences and analyze successful cases and identify opportunities for application or improvement. So, zoning in on the case of Trinidad and Tobago. And I know Dr. Margaret Bernard is here, and she will be able to fill in. I think she was the person responsible for the creation of NAMIST. Am I correct? No, we supported it in some way, I suspect. Thank you. So what they were trying to do, the evaluation focused on the services business model and its sustainability and effectiveness in providing timely and reliable market information to small and medium-scale farmers. This consultancy was carried out in coordination with ICA and supervised by ICA as well. Lessons learned. One of the things that jumped out at me, there were many lessons cited in the document, but these were the ones that I thought were the most relevant to our discussion, or I think more pressing issues. It is not only about using the most up-to-date technology to improve processes. Instead, all technologies available must be taken into account, and the one that best adapts to users' needs must be selected. This is a very important issue. It is clear that there are more efficient technologies available that can provide a lot more information than the text messaging system. But this system is successful because, centrally, it is practical, simple, and inexpensive. So this is a reminder to all of us in our planning. Whatever we plan, we must be mindful of the fact that these things must be accessible to ordinary farmers and ordinary stakeholders. It must be, very importantly, practical, simple, and inexpensive. The second issue or lesson learned was that extension workers and public officers must participate actively in promoting the usefulness of products and services. So sometimes you have good products, good services, probably worked other places, but because down the chain somebody didn't support it, it wasn't advertised properly, it wasn't supported well by the other support people, it didn't fly, right? And I think this is what it was trying to say here, bring out in that statement. So following on those lessons were some recommendations. First, train instructors to effectively use market information. In addition to generating more and increasingly modern products, we keep returning to this central thing, products, generating products. In addition to generating more increasingly modern products and services, it is important to work with information users at various levels in order to meet the final objective of making better market decisions. What is this thing about, what the central issue behind these products and services is to make better decisions, right? And to be able to use this information is central. That is important. Second recommendation, evaluate the mechanisms used to disseminate information. So I put in bold there, evaluate the different products, measure the impact on target audiences. So there are many, but we must understand which are the best suited, right? carry out an awareness-raising campaign in the public sector with the support from non-governmental organizations like ICA that interface with stakeholders, right, as well as the academic sector. And finally, develop a strategy to strengthen the SMS system. Despite the system's success, in view of its low running cost and based on the evaluation that was carried out, improvement plans be implemented to increase its effectiveness and especially its coverage, right? So sometimes this was taken out from the study, right? You have good products, people acknowledge, recognize that they're good products, but the coverage is not wide enough, right? Looking forward, I'm saying ICA is well placed to deepen support in the agriculture in the region. Why? We have a physical presence in 34 member states in the Americas. Again, that is boots on the ground. It's a central issue. It is an important, invaluable, very important issue when one is trying to ground strategies in a country, right? And you have the resources to back you. So that's one of the reasons I would say ICA is well placed in that regard. ICA recently partnered with others, including UWI, Farmers and Curriculum Secretariat at the University of Edinburgh, to explore the possibility, the development of a proposal that seeks to use the blockchain technology to assist with building relations between buyers and sellers. And I think it was really between producers and the hotel services, right? Either traditional or the operational, the kind of the big hotel chains, and to facilitate payment arrangements between these two sectors. So that is one area that opens an opportunity. The third one, our mandate is tightly aligned with the ideals of strengthening agriculture in the region, and I took the liberty of pointing out some of them: institutional strengthening, capacity building and development of human talent, development and strengthening of public policies and management and use of knowledge. These were all areas, core areas I pointed out earlier. And we think that these are areas that would be tremendous use to the process going forward in facilitating ICTs in e-agriculture in the region. We have vast experience in leading, coordinating efforts in e-agriculture at both project and institutional agency level. And I showed you examples of that in FAGRO, CDALC, CGET, and the like, right? Finally, this is just underlining what I said earlier. ICA is well placed to support the follow-up actions of the forum. Thank you.
Dr. Blair, this has been very, very insightful, some of the work undertaken by ICA. I must say I am also enlightened by some of the initiatives that you are undertaking in the region, especially some of those like St. Kitts and St. Lucia, which are much closer, and are also part of the ITU constituent base. And therefore, one can see the opportunity for that kind of collaboration in bringing the two sectors towards solving the various challenges that you highlighted. And in your recommendation, I think you pointed out two main areas, that of training and that of more effective forms of information dissemination. And I think as we go along in our various discussions, these are some areas that we could look to address. You bring in your, and by you I mean each and every participant, bring in your own specific understanding as well as experiences to bear in the whole discussion. We would take one more presentation before we go into open discussion, and that is Mr. Alpha Zenon. of Y-Farm. And I am certain it's going to be a very interesting presentation. Please.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Cadet, for having us. And yeah, as he said, I represent an organization based in Trinidad and Tobago called Y-Farm. And the Y-Farm, it means we help youth farm. Yeah, it means we help youth farm, and we are a registered, NGO working in the civil society space. And we created several different strategies then to engage our young people. So if you would direct your attention to the screen, when we look at the present day, to the left of the screen, the picture, when you look at the present day, we are in the year 2018, our farmers are 55 years and aging. That is the reality. And I thought it was only in the Caribbean, but as I travel all across the globe, it's literally the same situation globally. And by the year 2050, most of them would be deceased. Our 30-year-olds, young farmers or young professionals, by the year 2050, I would be expected to be retired, hopefully. And our 10-year-olds, our 5-year-olds, they are the ones who will be the young professionals by the year 2050. But what are these 10-year-olds thinking about? But not just what are they thinking about, what are we telling them to think about? What is the media telling them to think about, right? So the big question remains, who will feed the 9 billion population by the year 2050? Now, what is the population of the world right now? 7.3 billion, right? And if that is not an alarming thing to you, then you have to check the maths, because by the year 2050, we expect it to be 9 billion. And our 5 and 10-year-olds are not really thinking about agriculture. I could get into that as to why they're not thinking about it, right? So at Y-Farm, what we have done, we have created some strategies, using agricultural, educational, entertainment, right, to really direct their thought process and to make agriculture agriculture, and ensure that this younger generation is able to adapt this culture of agriculture, ensure that they look at it and find their why. So a lot of what we do is focus on the why and then the how. For too long we have just been, have a program, kids would come, teach them to plant agro-box, hydroponics, you name it. All the different technologies is all cool. But do they find a why to resonate in them or with them, that they could now take up this and say, yes, I'm going forward, I'm going after, to become something in agriculture as I grow up? Because 3-year-olds, as we say, they want to become a doctor. 2-year-olds, as we say, mommy, I want to fly a plane, right? And so what we at Y-Farm has done is that we realize that there must be an adventure to encourage youth in agriculture, starting with our main character, who's branded as the world's most powerful food provider. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we introduce the amazing adventures of Agri-Man. An Agri-Man would say this: boys and girls, I'm the Agri-Man. To feed the world is my master plan. If you plant one tree, you can eat for free. This will guarantee food security. From field to farm, let's let it sprout. Soon we'll see an end to drought. Once we all grow what we need, soon the whole world we can feed. And we created an entire song. Okay, again a little clap there, thank you. So we created an entire song, and one of the, to get into it now and understanding it, and one of the strategies in terms of what we use for ICTs is really showcasing and rebranding, using communication, using videos to the mind of the young people. So we could get our attention to the screen here, and I'll showcase. I have like two videos to showcase, and it's really a video presentation and then some discussion. So we could show the video now. Thank you.
It's all about plastification. and I will plastify the nation. Ha 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 ha. I'm on a mission. Take this plastic and cover the entire world so that everyone will have plastic to eat in 20 years' time. Ha 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 ha!
Wi-Fi HQ, come in. Wi-Fi HQ, come in. Photosynthesis, do you read me? Tomato boy, do you read me? Anyone there? Anyone? Can you hear me? Whoa. No one's answering. Running low on energy. Hey. Yeah. High in vitamin C, E, D, F, A1, B1, C2, and Z3. Let's go. Plastic imposter, no match for the argument. Have my ammunition ready. Can see him. 2-3 degrees, heading west. Then 2-3. Do I have the shot? Yes, I have the shot. Receiving the growth. Do I get the all clear? No, he spotted me! He spotted me! Bygone bomb! Take that, you imposter! Coconut annihilator! Got it! I've got my ammunition! He's down! I repeat, he's down! The plastic imposter is down! We have won the war! Yeah! Once again, the Agri-Man, world's #1 food and nutrition security superhero, saves the day from the plastic imposter. Plastic rice, plastic cabbage was no match for my ammunition and my bygone bombs. Not to mention my transporter. Again, Agri-Man saves the day. Plant 1 tree, eat for free. Agri-Man out.
So I guess you all enjoy that, right? So, you know, exactly what we have been talking about is that agri-edutainment. I heard so much of laughs from my colleagues in the back here and cheers throughout the entire thing. And it's about educating the young people, but making sure that they have fun. So they entertain by it as well. So this is what Agri-Man and his female companion, Photosynthesis, brings to the table, and their robot, Agribots. So we're gonna show our next video now, which is a little different, but it's something called a RLO, reusable learning object, and we show and our kids love this. Go ahead.
I'm a cassava planter, call me cassava farmer. Keep down in the area when me put cassava. If I'm on a bus, I move it out the area, me a done. I'm a cassava planter, call me cassava farmer. Keep down in the area when me put cassava. If I'm on the bus, big stinking keep, I'ma move to the area. With them call him food keeper. He never know me when me did told me water. Or when me did apply organic agriculture. Yet out from me feel them dig up me cassava. And when them dig it up, they move it over the area. Me pick up me sweet potato launcher. And in the end, me so the food keeper me a done.
Right. So, thank you. There again, that was another simple use of ICTs to get a message out there. That song, the music, the cassava planter, was taken from another song. I can't remember this song? Oh, ganja planter, right. Yeah, and so the youth will obviously be interested in hearing, they know the beat and they could follow it and they could sing it, and right away we capture them. So what I think is one of the things that we pioneer is agricultural educational entertainment, showcasing to the young people this creative and innovative side, and just that communication strategy that could reach them. The first time I heard the word food security was when I was in UE. And that's a big problem. Like in my second year in UE is when I heard food security. So we talking about around the region, we trying to tackle this, and you telling me that I'm now hearing this when I'm about 25 years? No, we behind. So we say at YFAM that we can't wait until university to teach the children about food security, nor can you wait till they get a PhD to learn about climate change adaptability. What is wrong with learning about that in kindergarten? No, it's bringing it down to them, of course, as they would see via the videos. And here we have coloring books and comic books, And of course, these have been working, but not the full capacity that we wanted to work. So our next step with this is, of course, is animation. So we are trying to scale up the organization and animating Agriman, getting an entire video, and one of these days we'll go into movies, go into the theater and look at Agriman Adventures. And the region must rally towards that, because we're talking ICT, but we just kind of only talk ICT, farmers, and not the future feeders, because the young people are the leaders of today and tomorrow, you know what I mean? And the reality of it is that we would tackle the farmers, the old farmers right now, and then when these young people grow up, we'd be talking about the same thing again. How could we get them people now into ICT? Of course. So we just kind of spending money over and over. So I'm saying we must tackle the brains from young. When you look at the movies, right, you see the doctors and the lawyers and the engineers and the pilots and that's what the children are looking at. When they look at the cartoons, that's what they're seeing, right? They don't see a farmer. When they see a farmer on a movie, think about it. You see, you're going up there you're going up to your dad, you're going up to a farm with your dad, and you're going on a ranch, and the child saying, "Do we have to go there, Daddy? Ew!" And that is the image that will be portrayed. So that is what will come into your brain naturally. So that is the last thing on your agenda. So we at YFAM now, we are trying to use the ICT tools that we can use. We expect to develop an app. We are working towards that. Of course, fundraising is always a big deal. And but we are doing the best we can with I wouldn't even say limited resources, because there's plenty of resources. Sometimes it's not always money, but sometimes it's human resource and people willing to share with us. We have taken this project as far as Australia, TEDx Amsterdam, do talks all over in the UN and whatnot. So we really want to showcase that ICTs don't only have to be used, right, for old farmers in terms of, yes, the apps on the smartphone and whatnot, but let's not leave out the children, because they are the ones that you have to formulate their brains and recondition their brain. And I say recondition because it was conditioned otherwise by our, I don't know, forefathers or whoever. And that marketing that the industry needs, that rebranding, those videos would show you, well, the farmer is the powerful person. Agriman is a farmer, right? Photosynthesis, she's yet to be launched. We are actually launching her in 3 weeks' time in Brazil at a global conference called the Thought for Food Global Summit. And, we are moving on up. And, my message today is that we have to focus on the children. We have to bring, using the ICTs to communicate to them. Because the reality of this is that them children want to be able to pull this up on their tablet. They want to pull this up on their phones and learn from this and not really this paper thing. I mean, this is the best we could do, so this is what we are doing right now. Right? So I hope, something which I've said today will resonate with some of you. And, I am happy to have been able to have the opportunity to share this work. And, hopefully I could connect with some people throughout the week while I'm here. Some of the things which we do, we launch in other countries as well. And we take on young people who's excited about these things, like you guys, excited. You should be able to bring this to Guyana and showcase this to the kindergartens and whatnot, right? So, and somebody here could be the photosynthesis or character, and somebody could be the agri-man, and that is what we have to do to save our region, because food security, food and nutrition security, ain't no joking business, and it ain't no laughing matter, you know what I mean? So, thank you very much, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Well, with these three presentations, I think we have set the stage for a very interesting discussion because just with this very short but insightful presentation, it has touched on so many different facets, from transformation of the mind as far as looking at the agricultural sector is concerned, the whole issue of food import bill, the whole issue of the proper dissemination of information in order to capture the right message in the agricultural sector, and for drawing a new entrepreneurial class, a new group of individuals that would propel the sector forward, and that would provide for the kind of security that we need. So I think these three presentations that from Cardi, from ICA and YFAM have set the platform for an open discussion. I am sure that you have a number of issues that you may want to either highlight or share or ask questions about, and that is the essence of this particular forum, so that we can mold the different ideas into a construct that would bring about the change that we desire. So the floor is open up to you at this point in time. Yes, I see two hands. I see one here and one here. Let me just get the microphone first.
Good day, everyone.
Good evening.
I am here because I was watching TV and I was captured by what I heard today, and that's why I got here late, so I was for the afternoon session. And we had the first expo in this country, and I, farmer, along with my spouse, and we had a very good production that we took to expo. And that was the first and the last time we took our production there, because we had a very bad experience. Now I'm going to name this person, and I didn't come here because I didn't want to call the name, but Mr. John Wilford was in charge. And the product that we had, it was some nice bakerillas and lovely cabbage, all organic. Someone overseas, he said it was some Chinese firm, saw it on TV, contacted him, and wanted to do business with us. But we must do the planting, give him the goods, and he will do the business. And because we didn't agree, everything fell through. Now I took my own money out of my pocket and I took him to the farm because he wanted to see the farm where these goods are coming from. All transportation, everything I paid. Took a lot of pictures, and he have pictures to me. To this day and date, I haven't got one picture. Every time I go to agriculture and ask him, he could never find them. But he could find other pictures to show me, but he's going to get to me. He's never gotten to me up to this day. So I turned my back on everything. Just plant and go to the market and sell whatever I have. If it's broccoli, if it's balanges, whatever, and forget about agriculture in a wide space in Guyana and anywhere else. I went to Forum at the Tower Hotel. I stopped going to everything. Since then, today, I am here because it seemed kind of interesting to me, and I come here to see what we can get out of what is happening here. And my grandson, he also plants, and he wanted to come along, so we are here. One of your guys was talking about the marketing, different places and so I am getting the feelings that we can contact whoever, you, them, whatever, where we have to go, because I wrote down where I can meet someone, either online, and I hope they take it from there and I wouldn't have to go through what I went through before, and my little generation that is coming up will be able to have a part in agriculture and reap the benefits. As you can see, I'm big now. My grandson, he is a year and plus, and every time I go through the door, he starts throwing out the cutlass, and I have to say, baby, I'm not ready as yet. Never mind, he throws everything outside because he is ready for planting and weeding, and when he comes outside, he got a piece of stick, and he's chopping grass. So I do hope that my family and other families like me can reap the benefit from this program. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon again, everybody. First of all, the gentleman from YFAM, good job. I really enjoy your production, and I stand with you. One of the things I've been saying is we really need to get agriculture involved from the younger generation, probably starting from primary school, because as you said, today, most persons who are in agriculture are elders per se, and they would have adopted this sort of mentality of sticking to traditional ways in agriculture. So it's very difficult for us to implement these strategies in ICT on them, which is a challenge in particular. So if we start from the younger generation, they are the ones who will be able to come and push the ICT to that level that we wanted to get. My question is in terms of those persons who are already seasonal farmers, traditional farmers, laggers per se, how are we going to get them or change their mentality and encourage them to adopt ICT in the furtherment of their production? Anybody can answer that for me?
Any one of the speakers?
George Caesar YFAM. With respect to your question, I'm thinking it's more about practicality. We have done a few surveys where, as you said, more archaic or traditional farmers tend to not be very accepting to ICTs. But we have seen if we are practical enough to show them with ICTs, you can be able to get such yielding or be able to prevent such diseases in such time. They generally now are more acceptable to use them. I am thinking it is as we said, the means in which the messages are being disseminated, whereas the farmers don't understand application that and this drone that they can barely answer their phones. So I am thinking we need to now get to more grassroots in terms of how do we make it practical for them to adopt these ICTs. And it really is about the way we disseminate the information. Thank you.
As we go along, let us try to concentrate on some of the challenges and some of the ways you think that we would be able to address them.
Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant afternoon to you all. My name is Vinay Punwa. I'm from the Ministry of Agriculture. I would like to first of all begin by expressing my gratitude to all the presenters. Your presentations were very informative. I've certainly learned a lot. I would more so like to focus on the presentation done by, I didn't get his name, this kind sir from Trinidad. I really liked your presentation. I think you're hitting it right on the spot. And I agree with you 100% that our region is in dire need of more emphasis being placed on the importance of agriculture. And it should start from the youths. I am of the opinion that we need to change the mindset of people in general, because it's just my opinion that people outside the field of agriculture, when they think of agriculture, they view agriculture as simply the rearing of crops, the rearing of animals, and the planting of crops. Layman's work, as we say. And agriculture, as most of us would know, is one of the most diverse fields. And it is arguably the most important field in the world. Without agriculture, we have nothing. So this agri-man idea is going to be very, very helpful for the Caribbean region. And we need to place emphasis on the ways in which agriculture can be used, not just in the rearing of animals and planting of crops, but as important as it is. Thank you very much.
Okay, 1, 2.
Thank you. It would really be a problem to get young people to take on that agricultural role into going into planting and providing for the future as far as security, food security is concerned. Because of the fact that here in Guyana, what people really do for a living is more demand-driven jobs. It's more where the job market is likely to grow. You qualify yourself there. And to change the mindset of young people into going into farming so as to prepare Guyana for the future and the world at large will call for training. I'm not just training, but showing young persons what will be coming out of this training, what they're likely to earn, because that seems to be one of the problems, the earning aspect. If they can earn a substantial amount of money from farming, it's most likely they may go into that. But it's not easy. It calls for a lot of training and education.
Okay, then.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Carl Court, Nari. 2 points. Expanding on the young Mrs. area here of starting from the primary I would say we need to start from the nursery and even younger, because I've seen children looking at Pepper Pig and emulate Pepper Pig. So if we start at that level, they will tend to emulate as early at that stage. Two, if we're to transform the knowledge of e-agriculture, we need to have pilot projects. We need to have farms where we concentrate heavily on e-agriculture, so farmers can see and compare. They can compare the results achieved from those farms that had been involved in e-agriculture as compared to what they're doing. So if they have something to compare, they will easier be convinced. Thank you.
So we are getting the essence that one of the key modalities going forward is that of utilizing effective case studies to mirror to the various communities or the various sectors how to go about e-agriculture. And I think this is the essence of being here, that all the different players can pool together and collaborate in ensuring that we develop strategies that could bring about just exactly what you're talking about, creating the platforms, etc., on which we can, one, market effectively, two, gather information, because these tools, and we'll hear probably a little later from St. Kitts, these tools can serve as not just a means for marketing, not just a means for selling of produce, but also in terms of being a pool in which one can draw the necessary data for effective planning. And probably as we go along, maybe you would hear a little in terms of strategies related to integrated development approaches. And I mention this because the agricultural sector, for all intents and purposes, it's intertwined with the tourism sector. It's intertwined with the health services sector, health and wellness. And therefore, just by touching on agriculture and ICTs, these two sectors, and then intertwined with tourism, intertwined with health, etc., you can see the importance of ensuring that you have a well-tailored sector utilizing ICTs. So I think I've said a mouthful. There's one other person here. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Howard London from NARI. I would like to congratulate the previous presenters. I think your presentation was bang on target, but I think beyond where you're going, what you're doing is the foundation. But I think we would drop the ball if we stop there. We need to see more government policies put in place for youths. If you grow up and you fall in love with agriculture, you really like it, when you finish, you go, like in our case in Guyana, we have the Guyana School of Agriculture, you go to the University of Guyana. Then what's next? I think we really need to see strong policies across the region to support these young people who are desirous of getting into agriculture field. And I'm speaking of personal experience. When you need financing and access to education, to land and marketing access, you might have all these academic experience. But really and truly going out there and putting it in practical is different. It's a different world out there. And we need to have strong policies to support these kind of, this kind of growth for youths in agriculture. Thank you.
I think this is a very powerful intervention, and I'm sure that you all would want to expound on it a little later.
Thank you very much, Selby Wilson from the CTU. I was very impressed with the presentation I heard, but the thread coming through the presentations really demonstrates a need not only for agriculture, but a need for governments in the region to begin looking carefully at the educational curriculum and determining whether the curriculums need to change in order to prepare our people for the future. And that's what I'm getting out of this thing here, that we really need to transform our societies. We need to revisit the things we've been doing in the education sector.
Yes. Oh, yes, you could go ahead from there.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all. I think the last comment prompted me to share just a little experience. But first of all, let me congratulate all the speakers on the presentations before. You're not hearing me? It's not clear? You can hear me now? I was saying that I wanted to congratulate, first of all, the speakers who presented a while ago, and then the comments kind of prompted me to share with you a little experience from St. Kitts Nevis. So by the way, I'm Ministry of Agriculture, St. Kitts Nevis, and what we've done at this current stage is to introduce a curriculum for primary school agriculture. It all started when a few years ago, we used the competitive nature of kids, and we had a best garden competition, and it had a resounding success. I think that was an FAO-funded project. And piggybacking on that, we did what we call a curriculum for primary schools, and now we are currently doing the textbooks to correspond to the curriculum. We're seeking funding, so anybody in here who has interest, maybe from the CTU, to fund the cost of those textbooks. But we're seeing resounding success in children trying to get into agriculture. There's one story on the sister island of Nevis where they have introduced a school farm to feed into the school kitchen. And one young guy, I think he took an eggplant from seed into harvest time, and when it was time to harvest it, they had problems getting the eggplant from him to take it to the kitchen. He wanted to go to them with the kitchen to cook it himself. He didn't want to part with his eggplant. So that's such a passion that is possible among the kids. To Mr. Wyfam, I think, sorry to say for the other presentations, you're the one who kind of prompted my brain into a number of ideas in relation to some of the challenges that we have in home in agriculture. One of them is my famous and favorite topic, the monkeys. And so I would certainly love to see AgriMan take on the challenge of some monkeys. So just an idea. Monkey control. All right. That's it. That's my contribution for now.
Hi, pleasant good afternoon to everyone. I represent a group of young entrepreneurs, and we plan to acquire roughly 10 acres of land from the Ministry of Agriculture to go into agriculture farming, because we see that food is the most important necessity of human survival. We just don't want to go into agribusiness to say just export raw materials. We want to create value-added goods so that we can not just export this around the Caribbean, but the world, in like other world economies. Like let's say for India and China, these are the countries that have the largest population in the world and as well, a very large consumer base. One of the problems in the Caribbean that we have is not just growing or producing these things, is creating value-added goods, and as well as developing a market, a domestic market, that we can develop these such businesses. But I think I love the gentleman's presentation that he did on agriculture, and I think the narrative that people have on agriculture is that a lot of people don't want to do it, because majority of our young people is going to the IT department because they see that computer is important. But I think a greater agenda needs to be done across the region to promote the agricultural agenda, because people would need food. As you know, Guyana is now going into the oil and gas sector, a lot of people are basically going for oil and gas, but the reason why we choose agriculture is that we see that our economies need diversification, and agriculture would be the easiest sector to diversify since it requires not a lot of funding. But we also need a transference of technical expertise in terms of things like branding, marketing, packaging, as well as development, and things like growth and etc. So basically everything you wear to everything you eat is growing, from cotton to coffee, cocoa, etc. So we want to add like value-added products so to promote the Caribbean as a major business region.
If I may, that's the add to his point there. So last week we were awarded a grant by Digicel to develop a agripreneur incubator design lab, where young people throughout our community comes to our farm. We set up this small facility, right? Because it's not a whole lot of funds, but simple equipment where young people who have these ideas, that's what we're talking about, value addition, and they could create their product. Because quite frankly, where am I getting $5,000 to buy a dehydrator if I want to dry pawpaw or dry cherry, whatever the case may be, you know? So they awarded us that grant, and we are creating this facility where young people could come and they could create a product, design it through trainings and whatnot as well too, and take it along the value chain straight to the consumer. So that's what I would add, and it could be a model you could look at, and I'm willing to work with you guys on developing something like that as well, you know? Thanks.
Sorry, one more point I want to add is that I think a greater agenda needs to push in the Caribbean for the young entrepreneurial class. We need an entrepreneurial class of young people willing to take risks, willing to go into business, to develop the economies of their country. I think we are behind the world in terms of an entrepreneurial class. We need a group of young people going into business that will satisfy the needs of their people in the future, like we say, the next 40 years from now. Agriculture, which should be one of them, and the IT sector.
And you could sense the mode of the discussion, especially highlighting the entrepreneurial class, and this linked with what the CTU rep mentioned in terms of the education system. So these are some of the things that I'm sure ICA and CADI would concentrate on, especially from the point of view of research and development in the agricultural sector. Of course, there are some of the simple things that can be done in the immediate, but of course there are other key elements that would require a lot of support from the various organizations, and that is where effective strategies come into play. That is where effective policies come into play. And of course, the FAO and the ITU would be, of course, willing to work with the various institutions as well as all member states in strategizing and in terms of leveraging a modality that can bring about change within the agricultural and, of course, the ICT sectors. Any other questions? We will take just 2 more questions because we have to move on. There are other aspects that we would want to discuss. So we'll take 2 more questions.
Good afternoon again. I just want to commend the presenters of the presentations to which they made this afternoon, of bringing to bear the language to which the young people understand. The young language that you see them doing all kinds of things. Well, what I suggest to be added is the values that there is in using the agricultural produce. For instance, situation like jamun, who knows the old, come from the old school, the vitamins that are in jamun, the vitamins that are in oranges, the vitamins that are in pears, the vitamin in all these fruits that we're having. You know, there can be demonstration to show the food values, not to just eating it, but to show the food values that are can be achieved by using this type of fruits and vegetables that may be able to keep them strong and make them healthy the way they are. That is a good means of getting over to them in the language to which they understand. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Clement Petty. from the University of Guyana. So what I was thinking really is the effects that the technology would actually have on the agriculture sector. Yes, they're beneficial ones too, right? But looking at the fact that we did a course by the name of GIS at the University of Guyana, and most students were a bit reluctant, as in wanting to do the course, because they kind of see it as a bit different from how agriculture is. And these are the young people that's supposed to take over the agriculture sector soon. So looking at that, it kind of shows that there's some sort of difficulty or issue as it relates to technology and these students in the agriculture sector. Now, from that, I was also thinking, basically, from a young person's perspective, most persons see agriculture today as office work. Basically, office, and the technology that we would try to implement to get people into it might have some effect whereby most persons would basically want to stay in the office more than to actually go out into the fields and do these sorts of things. Because looking back at the GIS course, we had to do a bit of mapping, which requires you to go out into the field. No one wanted to go out into the field to collect data. It was a whole lot of complications just to go out into the field to collect data. So I'm wondering, with the technology, how could you also help to motivate persons to want to go into the fields to rather to collect data and to do what they have to do? Thank you.
Any of the presenters or anyone in the audience would want to address this? These are some of the challenges that ultimately would play a very critical role in how we discuss the strategies for e-agriculture. These are some of the key elements that would help shape our thought process as we begin to think out policies and so on. So, yes, I see you leaning forward. You wanted to mention something in relation to that. Oh, okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, then we will wrap up. I'll take that last one from the Ministry of Agriculture, Guyana, and then we would wrap up this particular session.
Good day again. I sadly cannot give a concrete response to how ICT could motivate persons to go in the fields outside of allowing them to build an interest in using the actual technology or applying the initiatives, not initiatives, sorry, applying the, I guess, again, technologies in their day-to-day work. The requirement of work will send you to the fields. What you do when you're in the field is up to you. You either do something that you think is interesting, or you do something that you actually don't want to. At that point, you should be thinking whether or not you actually wanted to be in the fields in the first place. In all honesty, and from the deepest parts of my soul, I have to agree with my colleague over there saying that we need educational reform. In this forum, there should be a decent representative of different countries. Right now in the Caribbean, we follow the Caribbean Examination Council syllabus at least in secondary school. We might not be the persons responsible for, but I believe that there's enough persons in this room to at least start the conversation of having a reform of not only the agriculture syllabus, but a lot of other subjects. In school, I'm not sure if it's the same for everybody, but I was not taught all of, or the majority of, or some of the careers I could actually get from the subject that I'm studying. Agriculture, as it was said, is a very diverse subject area. But in school, in agriculture, do you know how diverse it is while studying? you do IT in secondary schools. Right now, I think it's starting from the first level of secondary school. Do you know the implications job-wise? What can you do professionally from IT? What can you do professionally from agriculture outside of just going into a farm? These things are things that we should be thinking of going ahead with teaching the secondary school students, the primary school students. This is what you could look forward to if you follow up this. We're told, I guess, early primary school, decide where you want to be when you get older and work towards that. Study what you need to study to be able to accomplish that goal. If we don't know the full amount of possibilities that we have, then what will we study? This contemplation, coupled with many of the things that were said before, coupled with the realization that I too, at 24, 25 years, I think it is, first heard the term food security. If we are targeting, and the majority of the persons in here agree, we targeting the youths, get them into agriculture. They don't know the necessity. If we can't show them that, they won't go into it. This ends as more of a call, I will say call to arms, to everyone here, including the representative from University of Guyana. I see no reason why at that level they cannot be incorporated into ministerial activities, actually going to do, let's say, job attachment in the workplace, seeing the various aspects of the jobs they could possibly be doing. That could possibly also motivate them in going out in the fields, using ICT in agriculture and such. So as a call to arms, for the persons here, it might not be tomorrow, you might have an opportunity in 2 weeks, in 2 years. Let us all do what we can to have a regional reform, not just on agriculture and ICT in agriculture, but from the lowest levels, with the implications of ensuring that we actually secure in terms of food and health and well-being. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I noticed quite a bit of interest in interventions. And let me just thank all of you for the interaction. What it does, I will have to oblige the rep from CTU and give him the opportunity for one more intervention. I should mention that he was a one-time policy maker as Minister of Finance of Trinidad and Tobago. So he fully appreciates and understands the whole issue of integration and policy formulation.
Thank you, Sylvester. I just, it might be controversial, but I just want to caution that we must not make the mistake of killing agriculture because of the development of the energy sector in Guyana. It has happened in a lot of other countries. When you have energy resources, then you ignore agriculture. I want to caution that we need to develop both sectors and pay attention to agriculture still.
This last very important clarion call, and not just for Guyana, but I think it's an imperative for the rest of the Eastern Caribbean on a whole, as we begin to develop our various economies, that we see the social, the moral, and economic imperative for ensuring that we create the environment for securities, and the new buzzword now is resilience in our various sectors. And you can see how economies begin to wobble when they are easily affected by whether it be issues related to climate change or whether the vagaries of economic activities in another part of the world. And therefore, the whole importance of consolidation becomes ever more important. And this is one of the reasons why the urgency for addressing this issue of e-agriculture becomes even more paramount. And therefore, as we go along during the rest of today and tomorrow and even beyond, that we concentrate deeply and earnestly towards coming up with the kinds of the vision and as well as the solutions to some of the challenges that have been expounded on here today. Having said this, we will end this particular session, and then we would look to other areas of consolidation. My colleague from Geneva would look very closely at areas related to e-strategy. But before we do that, we would want to invite the FAO. So please. In the whole milieu of things, I have so many names floating on the surface of my brain, so you would have to again remind me. I do not have my sheet in front of me, but please welcome.
Pleasant good afternoon, everyone. My name is Martina Duncan. I am the Climate Change Officer for the Food and Agriculture Organization for the Caribbean. I am going to present a little bit on FAO's work in digital agriculture. I was not originally supposed to do this presentation, but I was asked at the last minute because a person could not make it anymore. So please forgive me if I stumble a couple times along the way. All right, just some key facts about agriculture and the SDGs. 1 in 9 people on the planet still suffer from hunger. Every year, the world loses or wastes about 1/3 of the food it produces. Women make up almost half of the agricultural labor force in developing countries, but they own less land and lack access to resources. The average age of farmers is increasing, and that has come up a couple times already for the day. There is more than enough food produced today to feed everyone in the world, yet close to 800 million are chronically hungry. 1/3 of farmland is degraded. Up to 75% of crop genetic diversity has been lost, and 22% of animal breeds are at risk. So the agriculture sector is very important, but there's still a lot of issues that need to be addressed in the sector, and we hope that ICT would help us to be able to address some of these issues. The aim is to have a more connected future where we have the use of different technologies coming together so that we can have a more intense agriculture sector. We can revolutionize the agriculture sector with the use of the current and upcoming technologies. We have 20 billion. There was a goal for 20 billion connected devices by 2020, and we all know that broadband is increasingly mobile and more affordable. How do we get it? How do we increase that? How do we increase the access to these technologies to farmers and to improve the agriculture sector? Okay, so the rapid growth of ICT provides new avenues to share and access information. Digitization has provided the capability for convergence of these traditional network technologies and the emerging ones. These networks, when combined with data availability, required applications, and the right enabling environment, can unleash the tremendous potential of the agriculture sector. This slide was looked at earlier in the day, so I'm not going to go through it again. All right, so we have a case where we have an emerging ICT environment with an aim to an established ICT environment. And we have emerging enabling environment for e-agriculture and with a goal for an established enabling environment for e-agriculture. So in early stages where we have things like experimentation, early adoption, a lot of experimentation is still ongoing. Mika and Cardi and so on would have presented about that earlier on. We also need adoption. This was brought up also, adoption from the lowest level, at the education level, at the policymaker level, to get us on the right path for a sustainable ICT agenda. Okay, so the required e-agriculture components are the building blocks that need to be put in place to achieve the common vision for e-agriculture. Comparing the required components with the current e-agriculture environment shows what is already in place and what is still needed. This one will enable the formulation of strategic recommendations to be used as the starting point of a national e-agriculture action plan. So you have to look at identifying what are the first step in identifying or developing an e-agriculture strategy. We have to look at identifying what the components are. Every country may not have the same components or may not focus or prioritize the same components. In 2017, FAO in partnership with ITU published an e-agriculture strategy guide. So those of you who are wondering, okay, we're talking about this e-agriculture strategy, how do we go about it? There is a very comprehensive guide. It's a very long document, but there's also a summary document that can help the different countries to develop the e-agriculture strategy. And also look at the process for developing a national e-agriculture strategy. Here we have a combination of the Ministry of Agriculture, which may have an agriculture policy, and we have the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, if there is one or something similar, the ministry that addresses that component, and the relevant documents that they have, bringing these together to create a national e-agriculture strategy. It's a comprehensive framework to develop sustainable e-agriculture services and solutions. So here now we have the National E-Agriculture Strategy is an output of a comprehensive multi-stakeholder consultative process. It is very important to have that consultation, getting all the partners together to get that, to get a proper strategy that can work. It has to be very comprehensive. Actually, in the guide, the main focus of the guide, actually the first part of that strategy is establishing that vision. And you have to have that stakeholder engagement from the establishment of the e-agriculture vision. And then you develop the action plan. After you have gotten the vision down, you know exactly where you want to take e-agriculture, where you want to take the agriculture sector using ICT, and then you look at the monitoring and evaluation. The monitoring and evaluation will help you to improve during your implementation of the strategy. We have some case studies where work has been done, or FAO has assisted some countries. In 2015, Bhutan and Sri Lanka. We also have the Laos Democratic Republic. In 2016 and 17, we provided assistance to the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, and Fiji. 2017 to 18, Afghanistan, and working with Pakistan. There are no Caribbean countries on this list, I know, but it does not mean that there will be none. FAO is a very open organization, and if any other countries represented here requests or make a request of FAOs for assistance with developing a national e-agriculture strategy, this can be done. FAO Digital Services Portfolio. In August 2017, a digital innovation unit was established to lead, coordinate, and promote digital innovation across geographic locations in support of FAO's strategic framework. Some of the projects in the unit include building a FAO digital services portfolio, which now comprises of 4 progressive web-based applications to help farmers cure and feed their livestock and consuming nutritious foods while assessing agrometeorological services and price information on crops. They also have strengthening capacity for providing digital agrometeorological services in Senegal and Rwanda through mobile technologies, exploring the potential of innovative technologies such as machine learning, an app, Fish ID, that uses image recognition, and that one app is actually going to be implemented in the Caribbean under one of our projects called Climate Change Adaptation for the Fisheries Sector. I think there are 7 Caribbean countries, including St. Kitts and Nevis, and so on, that are involved in that project. The unit also looks at linking digital innovation and youth entrepreneurship through hackathons and challenges to incubate and accelerate innovative solutions for food and agriculture, and leading innovative partnerships with United Nations Innovation Network and other UN agencies such as WMO and ITU, and with private partners such as Google Earth Engine to leverage geospatial data, and with Telefonica using Internet of Things and big data for increased crop productivity through resource management. There are also some knowledge products produced by the FAO in partnership with ITU and other partners. All of it is available on FAO website, e-agriculture in action for drones for agriculture. Also looks at the use of mobile phones by the rural poor, information and communication technologies for agriculture and rural development. So there's a host of information you can get that was produced by FAO that you can use in your activities or to develop some of the activities that you already started. And to end with a quote from our Director General, Jose Graziano da Silva: digital technologies are creating opportunities to improve how we produce, distribute, and manage food and feed people, creating a major driver for economic growth and an accelerator for innovation and change. Thank you.
Let me thank you so much for this insightful presentation. And I am sure that there would be questions that may be asked of the FAO in relation to some of the initiatives that are being undertaken. So if you have any questions or comments, as it were, then you could just highlight these at this point in time. If not, then we would go into the next segment, which deals with going into the meat of the matter in terms of e-strategy. I should mention that somewhere along the line, before the end of the day, you'll be hearing from some of the member states as to some of the challenges they encounter and some of the things that they're doing to really address those issues. Hani?
Okay, thank you very much, Sylvester. I know it's a bit cold indeed. So we need to move. If we cannot move physically, they stopped. Okay, very good. Oh yeah, that's a big relief. And actually, it was even noisy. So okay, so let me maybe do a quick recap of where we are doing now, where we are now in terms of the flow of ideas, etc. I think what we have seen so far that we have seen and heard about a number of existing applications, like for example AgriNet in the morning, and many other initiatives from ICA and Cardi and others, and also a lot of very creative ideas from young entrepreneurs from the Caribbean, etc. So I think the technologies is there. Do you think that there is an issue with the technology today? Probably not, right? The technology is there and we have a lot of products out there. So where is the issue then? Every product, every entrepreneur or every company who develop a product, what is the best thing that they want to see is that it's used, right? It's adopted. And in this room, actually, we have people from the supply side, right? We have entrepreneurs, companies, etc. And we have people from the demand side, from those who will be supposedly going to use the technology, from governments, organizations, etc. So, what do you think needs to be done to help governments and countries, etc., to adopt and use those technologies that are out there already? What is amazing that in almost all regions of the world, you have already a huge capacity for innovations, particularly from the youth. And we have seen this in the Caribbean, we have seen this in Africa, we have seen this everywhere. However, the problem is that those technologies, those innovations, those creative ideas are not yet used at the right level of scale, right, that we would have hoped to see. What needs to be done to bridge this gap, the gap between the demand and supply? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I believe the process has to be an organic one. It must start from the user's perspective.
Yes.
What is it that they want to do? And bring the experts to try to understand it. I mean, not every person in agriculture is an expert in ICT. So you need to bring the right persons to listen to these people's, get these people's perspective, and to match products with their requirements. So I think the underlining, the word that is important there is organic. It must be from the user's perspective. And I think if you nail that, you'll have a product that is utilized and accessible to the people who want to use it.
All right, thank you very much. I think there are 3 areas at least. Belief. We need to believe that these innovative solutions that are emerging can actually work. And once we believe it, then we will actually put a lot of effort and resources behind it. Secondly, I think we need to place each of these innovative solutions into the right context, because what might work in one particular region or island or country might not necessarily work in another area. And last but certainly not least, at least of the 3 points, is that we need to see demonstration, because I'm very sure any government official will want to see improvements in efficiencies and everything else. And if we could break down the implementation of these innovative solutions to dollars and cents, as we say, for instance, if we say, with our current methods, we're expending X dollars to produce 10 pounds of cassava or whatever it is. If we apply this ICT solution, we will spend 0.25x and we'll produce 100 pounds of cassava, thereby earning so much benefits and everything else. So I think if we break all of those things down into dollars and cents, then it will help to get a lot of buy-in. And once that happens, then we'll be able to scale it up. Because many times we talk things, it sounds nice, but I don't think people really believe a lot of it. But once you can achieve that, put it into context, and demonstrate that it will actually save lots of money and improve productivity, I'm very sure there will be quite a lot of buy-in. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thought?
If I could respond to Valmiki's intervention, particularly the last one, I think that was a very useful point you made. You must do the cost-benefit analysis and demonstrate to the users the benefit, the utility in adopting. However, I think your 2 earlier points alluded to, well, took the supplier end. I believe the question is, if this thing can be used and if it is suitable to the end user. So it has to start from the user's perspective. That, to my mind, is the right approach. That is the organic approach. You know, looking at it from what is required and matching it. Now you matching it with products that suit those requirements.
Okay. Any other final thought? Okay. So let me maybe run this logic to you. We agree that the technology is there. There is no problem with the technology, whether it is within the region or even outside the region, and there are a lot of products out there. Going back to your point of demonstration, even if countries like country X or Y and Z didn't yet necessarily have demonstrated benefits, but there are so many other countries who did. So there is part of the demonstration that has happened already, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Of course, I agree with you that some of it needs to be adapted and taken to the local context and shown at the local context. But we shouldn't be starting from completely scratch, because that would be quite illogical. That if we know that, you know, there has been very strong cases for market linkages and marketplaces and market information, etc., in so many countries, do we really need to reinvent the wheel and wait another 5 years until we see the demonstration? Maybe yes, maybe not. This is debatable, right? I think what is still missing in many, many countries is that there is no explicit formulation of the demand. The demand is still weak because there is no enough awareness raising. People are not necessarily understanding the potential of ICT. They don't believe in ICT. So definitely there is some raising of awareness that needs to be there. So if we manage to have a clear, explicit demand on the use of a particular technology for the agriculture, I think that supply will follow. In the sense that if, for example, now we know that there is a strategy or a policy to use those types of technology, drones for our country because, etc., or GIS, then probably the supply will follow. Private companies will build up their capacity in terms of learning about GIS. Maybe universities will start to produce courses, and maybe students will be looking forward. Entrepreneurs will try to build their capacity to develop GIS applications, etc. So the supply will even follow quite quickly, actually. So I think if we really want to push the agenda of e-agriculture, ICT agriculture, we need to work with the big buyers to really explicit their demand in a very clear manner. And who are the big buyers in most of the countries are governments, basically. So I think what we are trying to discuss in this type of forum, that governments, as part of their overall digital economy agenda and as part of their role for development in agriculture as well, if they really want to make a difference in the use of ICT in agriculture, they need to explicit and formulate their demand in a very clear manner. And this demand absolutely needs to be based on requirement. And this formulation of demand need to be published, need to be shareable, needs to be consulted with so many people as much as possible within the stakeholder to say that this is what we think is needed in our countries in terms of technology investment. And we are calling for donors and stakeholders to invest in those areas that will help us uptake. I think we need both the bottom-up and the top-down approach. In most countries, one approach won't work alone. So we need the bottom-up approaches in terms of entrepreneurs providing, developing solutions, showcasing, etc. But then we need the government demand, really the government move, if they have this visionary leadership to say, we know that this is a game changer technology, that this is a game changer tools, and we need to use it in a very strategic manner, and we need to explicit and say this is what we need based on our understanding of the user requirements and needs in our country. And this whole lead to the same issue of developing a strategy. Don't think of a strategy as just a piece of paper. In many cases, yes, it can turn into a piece of paper. Yes, that's true. But in what the objective is developing those strategy, and particularly the way the process of developing the strategy, that should be very inclusive, that should be very consultative, should lead to this awareness raising, and should lead to the government being able to explicit what is their vision in terms of the use of ICT for agriculture. As I mentioned, and the colleague from FAO also mentioned, this guide really gives you a very detailed guidance on how you build up this common understanding of what is required and how you create the vision. Let me give you some very quick examples of how you build up this formulation of the demand. We suggest, actually, as my colleague of FAO mentioned, we suggest 3 main steps that should take place. Explicit your vision. What do you really think, how the agriculture sector should change if we use technology at a strategic manner, and how we can implement this, our action plan, and how can we monitor and evaluate it. So those are 3 parts of this guide. I'm gonna give some quick insights about the first part, which is the vision part, which is probably the most critical and the most strategic as well. So here is a very simple steps. We start with what do we want to achieve in terms of goal and challenges of the agriculture sector. And then we move to what we call agriculture outcomes. What do we need to see changing in the agriculture sector if we are to use the ICT? How we formulate our vision and how we communicate our vision to the whole world, particularly to the other stakeholders, and how, based on this vision, what do we need to do and then how we can provide some strategic recommendation. Let me go through those steps very briefly. Okay, in terms of agriculture goals and challenges, this is, I think, you as agriculture people, you would know this much better than anyone else. You would know what are the main goals and what are the main bottlenecks and what are the challenges that you are facing. We just, list here a lot of input from many countries about what are the most classical traditional goals and challenges, and we have created this list just as a reminder, as a checklist, but I think this is a part that is quite straightforward, and it really requires some consultation from the agriculture sector. Then comes the interesting part, the e-agriculture outcomes. What does it mean? Think of ICT as a way to improve the information flow within the agriculture sector. So the question would be, which information flows do I need to enable with ICT to improve my agriculture sector? And I think this diagram is quite strong and is quite self-explanatory as well. Let's start with agriculture goals and challenges. Let's say we have a problem with our, that we want as a goal higher incomes for small farmers. We want to improve traceability and quality and quality standards for buyers, new opportunities for financial institutions, etc. Then the agriculture outcomes would say, what do we need to change in order for us to achieve those types of goals? So we say we need to really work on improving the access to information. We need to improve the market linkages. We need to improve access to finance. Those are our biggest changes that we want to see in our agriculture sector. And those are easy to say, but difficult to identify. And this is where it really needs a lot of discussion and consultation to prioritize. Because what we suggest is that you start with a very small number of changes that you want to see to make it doable. Actually, we recommend maximum of 8 changes, but actually in many cases you will end up maybe having only 4 or 5. And this really needs a very serious discussion. What do we really need to enable in our agriculture sector? Once we understand this, then we can start to think of agriculture solution. We need maybe market information systems, we need extension services, we need financial services like credit, insurance, etc., etc. And then we can easily monitor the impact of those solutions based on whether they are really making an impact on lowering prices and getting more income to farmers, etc., etc. So this is really the framework, the strategy, the framework of building up your vision. And as I said, this needs to be done as a very consultative manner for government to say, for our agriculture sector, those are the three things that we really need to change. And the question for the region, can we come up with some regional desired changes that all countries in the region would want to see? For example, improve income to farmers by improving better market prices. And I think your example is very good, because linking back to your issue of user requirement, that's an obvious user requirement. And of course, this is one person. The idea is to make sure that this is really a common requirement, but I think it is. And it needs to be done in a very transparent manner to make sure that we are all agreeing that, yes, we need to invest our money to improve market dynamics and improve access to markets to everyone, particularly smallholder farmers, because we think that this can improve their income, etc. And if we manage to bring down those few changes at a regional level, then this would be our first framework to guide the demand side to really formulate their requirements in a very clear manner. I'm just listing a list of e-agriculture outcomes that we are providing in the guide to really help you think through how we identify those outcomes, at what could be example of changes that ICT can really make For example, let me pick one. Facilitate continuous improvement of farming practices and yields through more effective utilization of agronomic best practices, etc., etc. Support more informed policy, investment, and research decisions through access to timely, accurate, and comprehensive information, etc., etc. So again, the guide doesn't give you the solution. It gives you just a lot of checklists where you can really make sure that you have thought of everything and then you can pick yours. Then comes the vision. This is a high-level statement that can help you to express, as I said, how to formulate the demand. And again, the guide gives you some framework on how you formulate the vision. So it always starts with a time frame by 2020, by 2030. The agriculture sector, the e-agriculture will deliver something, will deliver strategic benefits through some improvement in the information flow. An example, by 2020, e-agriculture will enable a more productive, profitable, equitable, and sustainable agriculture system by transforming the way information is used to plan, manage, and deliver agriculture services. So this is a big vision. And this is a big vision that captures what do we really want to go. And then you can detail it more in order to see how this vision applies to a particular farmer. So if you see this table, it's very nice because you see the current situation and where do we want to see ourselves in 2020 or 2030 or 2025. Accessibility to information. Now it's not accessible to all, particularly in remote areas, and then we want by 2020 that it's accessible to all. Production system services, incomplete and generalized, holistic and site-specific. Pest and disease outbreak, now it's incomplete and untimely information and inefficient way to managing. In 2020, we want to be in a position to better manage of pest and disease outbreaks, etc., etc. So we can break down this vision, where are we today and where we want to see ourselves. So you need to do this, but as I said, this is something that will require a lot of consultation and a lot to get consensus. But once you set it, it gives a huge guidance on where should the investment goes for the government, but for the donors and even for the stakeholders, including the private sector and the supply side. I like also this type of scenarios, and this is something that is a very powerful tool, which is basically telling a narrative, a story about a farmer, how the life of a farmer is now, and how the life of a farmer can change if we apply a number of digital solutions. So it's basically, for those who come from the ICT sector, it's what is the as-is process, what is the actual situation, and the to-be process, i.e. what should be the case later on. And those narratives are very, very strong tools to really communicate to the normal farmers what this strategy will mean for them as concrete. And if you read this story, it's really very, very concrete. It really makes this vision something that relates to my life as a farmer in remote areas and why do we need to invest in agriculture. As you can see, just the fact is going through this process, what does it do? It really helps us and the whole community and stakeholders, including the government officials, to really understand in a more refined manner what does it mean to use ICT for agriculture and why do we need to invest in ICT agriculture. And make the investment really relevant to the requirements. It's really based on the requirements of end users. And really make them more and more believe in ICT for agriculture, even if they countries themselves didn't invest in ICT and agriculture. Why? Because ICT has been used for all other sectors. Banking, can you think of a bank doesn't use ICT? No way. So there is a proof that ICT can improve processes. That's undoubtable. And there are so many other countries who did it already. So we don't need to start from scratch. And I think the process of developing the strategy, particularly the vision statement, and the vision is really a way to get buy-in and excitement about the potential, how life will change in the agriculture sector when we apply the right digital tools, etc., etc. Then comes the components. Let me stop here for a while, because that's a very, very critical thing. You see, we have listed 8 components, and the technology is only one part of them. So you can see leadership and governance, strategy and investment, services and applications. This is the technology pillar. Infrastructure, standards and interoperability, content and knowledge management, legislation, workforce capacity, etc. Because we understand that if we really want to apply digital, the technology is just one piece of it, but there are so many other things that will influence the way you adopt the technology, including infrastructure. Do we have enough connectivity, for example? Including the governance. Governance is probably the most #1 important issue that is very much not used, because so many countries don't have an entity, a committee, or a unit, a governance mechanism that governs the investment of digital in agriculture. So the guide goes through all of those components and explain more what do we need to think to create the enabling environment for e-agriculture in your country. So I will not go through this, but as I said, the guide really provides you with information about what do you need to think in terms of infrastructure, what do you need to think in terms of governance and leadership, what do you need to think in terms of legislations, what type of legislation and policies you need, etc., etc. So at the end of the day, the strategy will give you an overall understanding of what needs to be done at the different fronts, and not only on the technology fronts. Because usually what happens that you think, yes, let's build a solution and it will work. No, it doesn't work like that, because there are so many other things that needs to happen at the same time. So at the end of this phase of the visioning part, you publish a number of strategic recommendations. Strategic recommendation is like this one. You know that we need, for example, as a strategic recommendation, to establish and sustain a market platform for buyers, seller, producer, agribusiness, and link online transaction using web-based and mobile apps. That's a recommendation related to one of the components that is called services and application, etc. And then we can provide, a number of strategic recommendations, and those strategic recommendations need to be published and endorsed officially by the government. Once you have this document published, the strategy document, then it's a clear stipulation, it's a clear formulation of the big buyer, who is the government. And what is the vision of the government? To use ICT at a strategic level to transform the agriculture sector, as I said in the morning, and not only to solve a problem here and there. And this will provide the overall framework for all stakeholders, including academia, research, entrepreneurs, private sector, etc., to really think through, do we have the right solutions? Do we have the right capability to respond to those types of demands in the future? So this is the first part of the guide. Really talks about the vision and what are the changes that we want to see in the agriculture sector if we apply technology. Then the next steps we're going to cover maybe tomorrow or the day after is about how you convert this into an action plan, and then how you think of funding, and then how you provide a monitoring and evaluation framework. So I'm going to stop here just to digest this part, because this is probably the most difficult, most critical, and the most strategic part of any strategy development process. But it's also the most impactful in terms of, if we manage to have a document that everyone agrees on and signed off on, then we start this journey of transforming our agriculture sector using technology. So let me stop here if I want to get some observations, questions, remarks about this part. Question?
I noticed in your presentation on the vision, you spent a lot of time stressing on how the life of the farmer would change, say by a certain period, say 2020, if we use ICT. But is it just the farmer we should be concentrating on? What's about the, say, the processor or the distributor? What if they use the ICT and their life change what? The farmer did not, and they did not change.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And actually, in the guide, we explain that you might want to develop a table like that per stakeholder group. That's absolutely accurate what you have just said. And we need to develop something similar to the extension worker, to the agribusiness, to whichever stakeholder group that we want to leverage or to want to target within your strategy. But you are absolutely right. We need to have a very high-level vision for the whole sector, but then we need to break it down into the main stakeholder groups, because then the strategy will speak to each group independently. And we need to make this sure that the strategy makes sense to those stakeholder groups. And even for the governments, because the governments would need to understand the agriculture sector status. They need to have statistics, they need to have indicators, they need to have information to be able to take decisions. So what does it mean to the government even to have an agriculture strategy and agriculture, e-agriculture in place? Other questions?
In terms of agriculture, with the European countries, would they be giving us a preferential market for agricultural export, or creating incentives, let's say lowering taxes that will allow us to more to export to the European markets?
So what is the question?
That was the question. Like, are they like going to create incentive for us to, like, you know, export things to the market?
Yeah. Okay. You are for sure aware of the EU regulations on import, that you need to showcase traceability of food, for example, because if you're not able that, then you cannot export to the European market. And in many countries that are producing, you know, they have meat, for example, they are producing cattle and cows, and unless they are improving their traceability systems, then they will lose a huge economic opportunity to export those products to the European market. So this should be reflected into your strategy, because if your strategy is to improve export, because that's a very strategic target for you, then you need to take into consideration the type of e-agriculture solutions that are mainly focused on traceability, that can really help you to be able to, you know, trace from the fork to, from farm to fork. And there has been a lot of solutions that are available out there, you know, using RFID tags. You basically put a small tag into the electronic tag into the all the cattle, and you are able to trace exactly their lifetime, where they are, which farm, what kind of disease they had, etc., etc. So again, those environmental, when we do the outcomes, it needs to be, and this is explained in the guide again, there is something called the strategic context. You need to explain where I am into my agriculture sector, what are the biggest challenges that I'm having, that I need to, for example, I need to improve my export, but I have this huge barrier. So that's why I think this strategic context analysis, where I am and what are the challenges and objectives, this is a very, very important discussion that needs to happen in the beginning of the strategy development process.
The strategies you're referring to, and the examples I think the FAO colleague showed for the country, some examples for the country. What is the typical timelines for implementation and for observation of impacts for these strategies?
Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, this might come when we start discuss the implementation plan. But let me respond to that, because you're absolutely right. Actually, to see impacts, it takes time. Even the strategy development process on itself takes time. I think we should cater from 6 to 9 months, even a year, just to develop the strategy. So it's a lengthy process. However, what we are what we are providing guidance is that in your strategy, you need to think of quick wins and long-term wins. So when you try to identify this, no, where is it?
It's not showing on the screen.
Yeah, okay. Can we put it on the screen, please? On the screen? Okay. I don't know how it works. But anyway, you need to think of what can have quick wins that you can do quickly with a small amount of investment, and what should take more time to see results. And your strategy needs to balance between the two, because any strategy will have phases. So this we will talk in more details maybe tomorrow or the day after, but we need to think how we can bring value immediately within the next 2 to 3 years maximum. And for example, one of the things that anything that touches the life of farmer should be taken a highest priority, because this is where you can really bring value immediately to the life of people. And the typical type of applications were really around whether advisory services or marketplaces and financial services. Those were the 3 areas where you really see very quick wins with relatively small investment, and they are not very complex systems to put in place. Okay? Some other investment might take much more time because it's more complex in terms of technology, it's more costly, etc., etc. So those should be taken. Then there is a very important point that there are some investments that are foundational, that you need to set some foundations for all the types of technologies that will come in the future. And we will talk about that maybe more in details later on. But you're right, the strategy needs to balance, what can we see in 3 years, immediate return, immediate impact, and what can we see in the next 5 years, and then within 7 and 10 years. Any other reflection question? Also, can you introduce yourself, please? I think you have done, babe. Introduce yourself.
Sorry. My name is Valmiki Singh. I'm from the National Frequency Management Unit. I think an e-strategy document is very, very good. What I find out from experiences is that many times at conferences like these, we actually speak to the converted, meaning that most of the people, or all of the people participating, are well sold on the benefits of ICTs and everything else. What essentially is missing is the actual sector or the persons that we're looking to in terms of improving their productivity. Of course, the ICT Roadshow is going to Anai on Wednesday and Berbice on Saturday, I believe. So those are 2 good points where we're actually going to the communities. But overall, I think sometimes we focus more on the tools rather than what exactly we're looking to improve. That is, we look at ICTs. Of course, ICTs are very well, but in terms of how it is applied is very important. I think what needs to be done is that at some stage, we have to go to the farmers, find out what are your problems, and then find out, match those problems with solutions that are already existing, or we can innovate and develop solutions ourselves. So it is very important to look at it from that angle. You mentioned the university earlier in your presentation. I think we also need to have our university a lot more involved in what is happening, because that is our highest institution of learning. And we have cases where we have students doing their research, but it has to be applicable to what's happening in the country, so we have to get into the field. So I think there needs to be a larger role for our university, and we have to go to the farmers, find out what exactly, over the whole product life cycle, from even before the planting to the selling to the market. Adding value also is very important. How can ICT help in solving the problems that they actually are receiving? And once we can actually do that, I think we would begin to see results and impact very much faster than 3 years. For instance, well, I don't want to get too much into it, but I'm very sure that there are, as you said, there are solutions, but we need to match those with the problems we're facing. We don't want to design something, as have happened in many cases, where wonderful plans are developed, but when it's time to implement, then people don't implement it. It just gather dust. So I think we need to match the solutions with whatever problems we're experiencing. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with you, and I think you're right in terms of what you can call stakeholder engagement. So actually, again, we have, I think we need to, can you maybe just tell the person to project from the computer? He's on the right. If you go out on the right, he can just project. Because I want to show you how we have analyzed the type of stakeholders that you need to engage with. There are different groups of stakeholders, and you don't need to engage with all of them in the same manner. Including the farmers, but not only the farmers, because you have the farmer cooperatives, you have the association, you have community groups, you have experts, you have agro-businesses, you have different even sectors that are directly or indirectly linked to agriculture. The finance sector, even the education sector, the health sector. So so this is how we analyzed the types of stakeholders that you need to engage with, and how you engage with all of them. I think the message is that in order to identify your priorities, you really need to understand what are the real needs at different levels by different groups, and have this validated somehow and endorsed by some sort of mechanisms. Going to the solutions, most likely for most of the very common problems, there are already probably solutions out there that has been developed over the years. You know, e-agriculture is not new. I mean, people are inventing and developing solutions since many, many years. So there is a lot of maturity in some areas of solutions. So definitely we don't need to consider everything to be developed from scratch, unless it's a new idea, etc. And actually, just to share some experience from other countries who are very, very mature, like India, for example. I can share with you the document that is coming from one of the states of India, which is one of the most advanced states, called Andhra Pradesh, which is very advanced in using technology, so they have a huge experience. And what is amazing, and they have developed the strategy for the e-agriculture, how they are going to use technology for the agriculture sector in the state of Andhra Pradesh. And what they have been saying is very amazing. They say, to the extent possible, develop any new application, and try to use off-the-shelf application as much as possible, to the extent if you need to change the current business process to adapt to the existing solution. Imagine. So they say, you change your workflows to cater with the solution rather than develop a new solution. Why? Because they are very cognizant the fact that we usually very much underestimate developing the cost for developing new solutions. We think, yeah, let's develop a solution. Experience shows that any mature solution takes between 10 to 15 years to mature. And this is a huge investment. If you really want a system that works at large scale, much better to take a solution that has been tested and been developed for a while, rather than try to develop it yourself. Unless it is something really new. But if you are wanting to develop something that exists already, I think you need to really think twice before you go about developing any new solution. So if we take this concept a bit advanced, you might think the issue is not about developing solutions even, because many of the solutions exist already and the technology is there. So what is the missing is that we put a mechanism in place to allow those adoption of those solutions. So the strategy process is just, you can look at it completely different, is to say, is this just a way, a process to put in place to help the big buyer, who is the government and its affiliates, to adopt technologies at large scale, rather than just experimenting with solutions here and there. I was quite amazed by some countries who went big immediately, because usually you say you need to, small. Yes, definitely. Even for large-scale deployment, you need to pilot at the first phase. But they have approached this at a whole of government approach rather than, trying to almost use this as a gadget. They use it as a whole of government for government transformation, and this really requires a vision. We know that it works because it works in many countries and it works in many sectors. It works. You just need to start the process, and you need to explicitly mention what is your priorities and really start the adoption process, because we know that the adoption process will take time. You are not going to put a solution and it works from the following day. Most likely, when a solution doesn't work, what is the problem? Is that it shouldn't be used, or there is something else? What do you think? If we apply the system and the system is not working, does it mean that we shouldn't be using a system after, of course, we have done all the analysis and requirements? Most likely there is something to fix. There is something to improve. But in most cases, there is, if we have thought about it, etc., if it doesn't work from the first time, it doesn't mean that it's a wrong investment. If it doesn't work from the first time, meaning that you need to learn and improve and continue to work, rather than to say, oh, no, we've made the wrong investment in investing in advisory services. No, it is the right investment, but there is a learning curve that you need to go through it anyway. So it's better to start today and not in 5 years. At least this is what some countries have envisioned. And this is what we want to see in countries and in regions like Caribbean, because really you can make the leap forward. Because you don't have legacy systems to worry about. You have everything is new, and you can really learn from the others and really make the leapfrogging, as we always say. Any final question, reflection?
Hi.
Margaret,
I want to endorse and really support all that you're saying there about the need for a national and regional strategy guide. I think we've been going around in circles for quite a while, and we need to have a structure in place. And I'm hoping that out of these 3 days of meeting at this forum, that we could really come to the end of it with a commitment from everyone who's there to move it forward, to influence governments and whoever else we can influence to begin to think about this and actually move forward in developing the strategy guide, so that all the other processes are fitting into that guide.
Okay. Thank you, Margaret. Okay, so if that's so, I think we need to move. I don't know what is the schedule for today.
Let me thank my colleague, Hani, for highlighting all those key areas, and I think it's an opportune time. I know it's coming to down to the end of the day, but it is that time when we reflect on some of the discussions that took place during the course of the day, and consolidate as we move to thinking towards tomorrow's sessions. Because of time constraints, we will transpose some of the activities which we had planned for this afternoon in terms of the country perspectives into tomorrow morning. And that would give us an opportunity to also take a little refresher, and then I think there's some information in relation to the Minister some information that the Minister has disseminated in terms of a dinner this evening. So having said this, I would not want to take up too much of your time, just to thank you so much for being here today and for participating. This is a very important aspect, and we're at a very critical juncture in Caribbean development, and as such, this particular topic is of critical importance in moving forward in our varied approaches towards sustainable development. Having said this, thanks again, and let me just call on our colleague from CTU to just enlighten us on some of the housekeeping matters.
Thank you, Sylvester. Good afternoon, all. Just to let you know that for the speakers for the e-agriculture session, Minister Hughes is having a dinner tonight. If you are staying at any of the hotels, you can let me know, because the buses will be leaving from the respective hotels to take you to the venue for the dinner. In addition, seeing that you didn't have an afternoon break, the break items are in the tent area where we had lunch today. So we have a minister's dinner tonight, and you have break items downstairs. And we resume promptly at 9, so hopefully we can get a full day in tomorrow. Thank you so much. The dinner is at 7. But depending on the respective hotels, the one bus I know so far is, it leaves Pegasus Hotel at 6:45. If you're staying at another hotel, you'll have to let me know, so I'll tell you the time. Question? And remember, we have the break items downstairs, so please make sure to partake. The bus to go back to the hotel is, there's one would have left at 5 and one is leaving at 5:30. Yes. 5:06. No, the bus that's leaving this afternoon is the one that's going to Pegasus and Marriott. At what time? And that leaves at 5:30. 5:30. So you can just meet the bus in the lobby downstairs.
Until, okay, well, that's fine.